for helmets, how to make sure that they're fitting properly, that they're in good shape, and all of that stuff. So a little bit about us. We both work at Texas Children's Hospital, which is the lead agency for Safe Kids Greater Houston. Through that, we have a grant with the Texas Department of Transportation, where we do bike and pedestrian safety in the community. We do a lot of events, mostly with children out in the schools, with different community organizations, and we also do presentations in the school to talk about bike and pedestrian safety and how to make sure kids are staying safe on their way to and from school. And then aside from that, we also do community events. So walk to school days, bike to school days, and bike rodeos, where we typically measure and fit kids for helmets and distribute helmets as a part of our grant. Elizabeth will talk to you a little bit about helmet usage, and then we're going to do a little demo for you so we can make sure you guys are trained and ready to go to measure and fit kids for helmets appropriately in your community. So our first slide, whenever you're ready, Elizabeth.
I am. Good afternoon. As Asani said, my name is Elizabeth Pino. We work together for the Injury Prevention Texas Children's Hospital. And it's a fact that 85% of kids' head injury can be prevented by a properly fitted helmet. The CDC says that while there is not conclusion-proof helmet, a bike helmet can help protect your child or teen from a serious brain and head injury. The information in this presentation will help you to learn what to look for and what to avoid when picking out a helmet for your child and teen. Buying a bike helmet is not enough, of course. We have to make sure that our children actually wear them. The challenge isn't often buying the helmet. It's getting that the helmet in every time and fitting it properly. So sometimes if your child sometimes don't understand and they don't know the importance of the helmet, it's important that we understand that we need to find the right one and the one that fit to the head of the children.
Perfect. Thank you, Elizabeth. So it's important to note that helmets are one-time products only. So while kids can wear helmets multiple times, they're only tested to respond to a crash one time. So a little tip we like to ask parents and kids when we're out at events is making sure if they brought a helmet, ask the parents if they've ever fallen, if that helmet has ever needed to do its job. If it has, it's time to trade out that helmet. It's no longer good. So that foam shell is there to absorb that impact. It's only going to do that once. So it's not going to do that multiple times. After a child has fallen or had the helmet either cracked or damaged, it's time to replace that helmet. So the bike helmet is only designed to prevent bike injuries. That's it. It's not designed to protect any other injury. Obviously, it's just, if worn properly, protects the brain. But a main issue is that it's often not worn properly. The helmet pads are great, and most of the time helmets bring extra padding in case they fall off or you need extras. They're great for comfort, and they also make sure that it's nice and snug. It keeps it nice and tight for these kids. Bicycle helmets, again, are sold in the US. They have to meet the standards issued by the US Consumer Product Safety Commission. You'll see that inside the helmet. If you can see my cursor right here where the sticker tag is, that's where it'll be certified that it actually met those regulations. You have to make sure you fit your helmet right every single time. So like Elizabeth said, you might wear a helmet correctly. You might wear a helmet, it might not be correct on the child. So these are 3 rules that are easy to follow for kids, and we'll go over this later as well in the demo. So you want it to be 2 fingers above your eyebrows. You want the straps to form a letter V under your ears, under both ears, and you want at least 1 finger between the strap and the chin, so they're able to tuck 1 finger in there. But this 1 finger rule, you'll see mentioned a couple different ways. So you can kind of pick which way you educate parents and children on it. We like to say that kids can open their mouth and the chin strap should be nice and snug. So you'll see that in our presentation at the end as well. Some tips from Safe Kids. So Safe Kids Greater Houston is a part of a larger Safe Kids Worldwide. They suggest these 3 rules. This is what we go off of. You want to make sure kids know eyes, ears, mouth. When we go to schools, we educate this way. We tell them, you know, always remember eyes, ears, mouth. And you test them a couple times, like what was I asking you to remember? Eyes, ears, and mouth. Always. The eyes rule, you want the kiddos to put their helmet on their head. They'll look up and they should see the bottom rim of that helmet. Another way to do that is for them to put 2 fingers above their eyebrow, and they'll be able to make sure that it's in the right position. That's how you make sure the helmet is in the right spot and it's protecting every important part of the brain. The ears rule, you want to make sure the straps form a letter V under your ears, and that is to make sure that the helmet is not sliding around. It's going to stay put in the spot where you placed it. The last rule is the mouth rule. The child should be able to open their mouth as wide as they can. They say a big ah like they're at the dentist, and the helmet should be nice and snug. If you see that strap moving around, that's when you'll want to adjust and tighten that strap. So consider this. These are a couple of things that can go wrong when you're wearing a helmet. Obviously for this first one, people know you're not going to wear your helmet like that, right? But the second one looks mostly right. The only thing that's really wrong with it is it's inclined up. You actually want your helmet to be leveled to the ground. So that's why a couple of these are wrong. This helmet is too big for this child. This one's obviously too small. And you'll be able to know how to properly measure and fit a helmet, not based off of a child's age, but based off of a child's circumference of their head, which is very important. Some other bike safety tips while we're talking about it: you can't only just wear a helmet and expect everything to go perfect. You also have to do a couple of other things. We encourage bright colored clothing always to make sure that these kiddos are seen by cars and pedestrians. Make sure they're not wearing headphones. That's big now, especially with adolescents. They're out there riding their bikes. A lot of the time they have headphones on. We don't want that. We want them to be able to focus and listen for cars, see if they're coming up behind them. All bikes should have reflectors, so that one's in there as well. You want them to keep both hands on their handlebars and stay hydrated always, especially in the Texas heat. Okay, so how do we find the right size? First, we're going to show you how to measure the circumference of a child's head. So Elizabeth has a demo that she's going to show us with, and we'll get started on the next slide, but this is what we're going to be going through. We're going to measure the head. We're going to make sure it's 2 fingers above the eyebrow. We're going to look at the back to make sure we tighten that up. We're going to check the straps to make sure we follow the ears rule. And then we're going to make sure we follow the mouth rule. Number 6 is having the child shake their head. And when they do that, it should be nice and snug as a baseball cap, to where it's not going to fall off. Okay. Elizabeth, are you ready for the demo?
Yes.
Perfect. Okay. So first we're going to inspect the helmet. So you're going to look inside the helmet. There should be a sticker in there. That rule says check the stickers. So you're going to check inside the helmet that there's a sticker present. If there's an expiration date, that's what you're looking for. Yes, helmets do expire. A lot of the time, the sticker might be a little faded. You might not be able to see well, but if you can see it and it's expired, it's definitely time to replace it. Especially with the Texas heat, with that plastic and that foam, it's not going to react the way you want it to. So they're only made to last a certain amount of time. Make sure you check those stickers. You're going to inspect the helmet. So when you take it in your hand, you're going to touch around, make sure there's no cracks and no dents in it. If you can push it in, there's a little squishy spot or it's dented, that helmet has already done its job. And like we mentioned at the beginning, you're not going to be able to use that helmet effectively. So it's not going to do its job again, right? You want to make sure it's not cracked, there's no dents or dimples in it. You want to make sure all the padding is there on the inside as well. So on the inside of the helmet, there's a bunch of pads. Most of the time they're Velcro, they can come off. You want to make sure those are all in there. It's going to make it more comfortable for the child, and it's also going to make sure it's nice and as snug as possible. Lastly, we'll talk about assembling your helmet. Sometimes helmets come without the visor. So if you'll show the front part, Elizabeth, of the visor, the helmet, when you see that front part, sometimes you have to push that in to the helmet.